Hello friends, today we're going to be talking about where you should invest in real estate right now. Are you someone who wants to get involved in real estate investing, but you're saying to yourself, man, I'm not sure it's the right time considering the market, or the area I live in isn't necessarily the best area to invest into right now? Well, you're not alone, and a lot of people feel the exact same way. But today, I want to give you some golden nuggets on where you can actually invest in real estate right now. As we dive into this video, I really want to help you understand where you should invest and where you should invest into right now. I'm going to help you understand what to keep in mind when you're considering different areas to invest into, what metrics or key performance indicators you should look at, and ultimately how to find the best areas. Are you ready? Okay, let's go. First off, let's talk about the state of the market as it is right now. Right? And why is that important? Obviously, we've got to understand the market conditions, because you might be watching this video a few years from now and the strategies we talk about now and where to invest might be completely different because the market changes and shifts all the time. So what is the current market condition right now? Well, some people might be saying that we're in for another real estate bubble like we were in 2007, 2008. But is that really the case? Is that going to happen? I'm not going to say that it is, but let's first look at the economics. Let's look at supply and demand. Back in 2007 and 2008, you had a very interesting set of market conditions that were happening. You had a lot of inventory on the market. There was a lot of property that was available for sale, a huge inventory. And when inventory is high and demand's low, what happens to prices? Absolutely, they go down. When there's not very much inventory and there's a high demand, what also happens? Now, in today's market, that has shifted a little bit. Not too long ago, about a year ago, there was a huge demand to buy properties and there wasn't a lot of inventory out there on the market. So what has the Fed done? They've raised interest rates. When you raise interest rates and you go from a 2.5% interest rate up to an 8.5% interest rate, what does that do to demand? Well, if you're most Americans out there and you're looking to buy a home with a 2.5% interest rate, your payment might be $2,000 for a $350,000 home. But if your interest rate is at 8%, that payment could go from $2,000 all the way up to $3,500, $4,000, $4,500. So does that lessen demand? Absolutely. So just the fact that interest rates have gone up so much in the last little bit, demand has gone down. But the one thing to note, supply is still there. The other interesting thing is there are so many people right now that have a very low interest rate on their home. And do you think those people want to sell? Well, if they want to live somewhere else, they realize that they've got to buy another piece of property, they've got to get another loan. And why in the world would you exchange your 2.5%, 3.5%, 4.5% loan for something that's north of 8%? It just doesn't make sense to do that. So that's why strategy is king, and understanding where to invest. You've got to implement a strategy that is going to benefit you as a real estate investor. All right, so let's look at some metrics, right? Because there has been a shift going on in the market in the last few years. For one, do you want to be investing into an area that is shrinking, or invest into an area that prices have skyrocketed over the last few years? Now, will those prices pull back? They could, right? And in some of those bigger areas where you saw prices go up by 100%, chances are they're going to scale back a little bit. However, there are certain areas in the United States right now that are receiving an influx of people from other states. So I want to talk about really quick, let's talk about those states that are seeing a mass exodus of people leave their state. So for those, the top 5 that have seen people leave their state over the last year are California, New York, Illinois, Massachusetts, and Pennsylvania. And let's talk about what areas are seeing an influx of these people come to them. Well, you've got Florida, you've got the Carolinas, you've got Georgia, Tennessee, and Texas. Those areas are actually receiving a lot of people into the state. People are traveling there, wanting to live there. There's good climate, there's good jobs available, and there's a nice growth rate there. So those could be ones you would consider at looking to invest into. And then just one final note on that, it's also important to know at a micro level what's happening within those municipalities. Now, I've said there's areas where people are fleeing, but I know people in every single one of those states where people are leaving that are continually month after month, year after year, finding deals, making money as a real estate investor, and actually making really good money. So I want to talk to you about how insider information can make a difference no matter where you live. For example, when I made my first deal in real estate, I knew some very good insider information. I mean, it wasn't insider information, it was pretty common knowledge, but only people in a small town knew what was happening. That there was a junior college that was transforming from a junior college to then a 4-year institution. What does that mean? All of a sudden, enrollment's going to be much, much higher. With more enrollment, what happens? more professors, workers, teachers. So the town was bound to grow, right? And I knew that, and quite a few people had known that. So getting involved in real estate when the market's looking like this is really a good time to get involved in real estate. And it wasn't in a place or a city or a state that was booming, right? But I had insider information. A gentleman I met just a few weeks ago, we had an awesome discussion. He is into vacation rentals, as am I. And he was telling me about a place up in northern Minnesota on the banks of Lake Superior that he is finding vacation rentals that are yielding sometimes whatever the purchase price is, about 17, 18, 20% annual rents of purchase price. And it's not a place that people are talking about. But for him, knowing that area, knowing what's happening, knowing that there's a major ski resort over there, knowing that that's where people go from some of these cities down south of Minnesota, gives him insider information on areas that are really thriving that other people might not know. So having information of what's happening inside a certain state, city, municipality can make all the difference in the world. So what different strategies can you employ right now in today's current market? Well, a big one is seller financing or sub 2. So how do you get involved with that? First off, let me tell you a little bit about sub 2. Sub 2 is subject to. It's a strategy where you can actually go in and take over payments for somebody that might be having a challenge making their monthly payments to the bank. And chances are they have a really good interest rate. And if you take that over, you're able to just make the payments. And that works as a viable real estate strategy, right? Another way to look at it is seller financing. You have a lot of people that are saying, man, I don't want to sell my home because I've got such a good interest rate, but I'm willing to become the bank and finance it to you as a real estate investor. And it might not be at 2.5% or 3.5%. It might be at 4%, 5%, 6%, but that's still a lot better than paying 8.5% interest rate on a property. Now, how do you get involved in some of those? Well, number one, there are a ton of groups on Facebook that you can sign up to. This is probably, a flaw of mine, is I actually go on, I subscribe to a lot of groups on Facebook, seller finance groups, sub 2 groups, all sorts of real estate groups on Facebook where I'm constantly seeing properties that are available in these different strategies. Matter of fact, probably the last 2 properties I've bought have been through this strategy on Facebook where I found properties that were posted in these groups that I'm a part of that I took advantage of. So a couple other strategies is a lease option or Airbnb arbitrage, right? That is where you go in and you acquire a property. And I'd acquire a property in an area that you're familiar with or a booming area that you can secure on a long-term lease and turn around and rent that out either on a monthly lease, like a lease option, where let's say you get it under contract for $1,000 a month, but you're able to lease it out to somebody for say $1,200 a month, right? You're able to make that difference, that arbitrage difference there. Another one is a long-term lease on a property where you can turn around and do Airbnb rentals or short-term rentals on that property where you're renting it out at a nightly rate. For example, let's say you get a property on a long-term lease that's $2,000 a month. It's in a nice area and there is a development, there is an apartment complex in Orlando that does just this. I've got a good friend of mine who probably has 6 or 7 of these Airbnb arbitrage leases happening within this complex, right? So she gets it under contract for $2,000 a month on a year-long lease, and then she goes out and rents it out nightly at about $250 a night, and it stays occupied about 15 to 20 days, right? So just that alone, you're gonna make probably, if you're paying $2,000 a month, she's bringing in $3,500, sometimes $4,000 a month from that lease. That's called Airbnb arbitrage, which is a great strategy of taking no money out of your pocket, but also in areas that are booming, that are seeing people continue to visit and vacation to. All right. Here's my consensus on where to invest right now. This summer, I took a road trip with my family. We started in Texas, drove up through Oklahoma, down to Louisiana, stayed in New Orleans for a little bit, drove across the panhandle of Florida, stayed in Orlando, and then went up to the Carolinas, South Carolina, North Carolina, and ended in Georgia. And I will tell you, I can see why people are moving there. That is a bustling area. That's an amazing area. And so if I were to invest, or where I have invested, I've got properties in Florida, I've got properties in Georgia, I've got properties in South Carolina. Those are some areas that I would really consider. One area I really like is Orlando. I just think that's an area that you have a major airport, a lot of people vacationing to, and there's a lot of stuff happening, conferences, events, concerts. There's a lot happening in the city of Orlando. Another city I really love right now, or 2 of them, are Savannah, Georgia, and Charleston, South Carolina. Man, what awesome city. The vibes in those cities are amazing. We stayed at an Airbnb in Charleston that was out of this world. And you know what? You can provide those same type of experience for other people, but if you're looking to invest in certain areas right now, I'd consider the southeastern part of the United States and some of the Rocky Mountain places within the United States. Utah, although prices have gone up quite a bit. Idaho has seen some great growth, as of Arizona and Nevada. But the areas I like the most right now are the southeastern part of the United States. Now, how do you find out about some of this? I mentioned join some Facebook groups, or in certain areas that you like to find out. You can also join local REI clubs, real estate investment clubs, to find out some of the insider information on certain areas. And I would love to know your feedback. Where do you think you should invest in real estate right now? Wherever you're at in the United States right now, I would love to learn about your area and find out where you think you should invest right now. As always, I've got a free gift for you. I've got an Airbnb calculator right here on this link below, aaronsfreetraining.com. You put your information in about the property you consider buying, and it spits out whether it's a good deal or not. Once again, aaronsfreetraining.com. Thanks for being here today. Have a great day.